Hello, Spectrum Women. It is I, Becca Lory Hector, here with your February installment of Asking Spectrum Women. I hope you guys have been enjoying these monthly little Q&As that I'm doing with you guys. I love reading your questions. I'd sure love more of them, but I only get to answer a few per month, so I'm glad to have 3 ready for you. Yeah, I hope your January went okay. I hope you guys enjoyed the January video. I'm sort of just coming off recording Neurodiversity Newsstand if you watch the other stuff on my channel. If not, welcome back to the Spectrum Women YouTube channel, because once a month I do a monthly Q&A vlog with you guys where I answer your questions. And this February is no different. So let's get to the questions. All right. Here I go. First question. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, I've read your article and watched your video on autism inertia, but I wondered if you could talk more about this. Like how it can happen not just as a result of depression or like a neurotypical experience of just a bad day, but as specifically an autism thing. I struggle to explain it to my OT. She goes on to give some examples. Like how just changing your blanket will bring on different things, and shifting your body, etc. And she wants to know about interoception and how to verbalize that experience. So I thought this was a fantastic question. I'm somebody who not as often as others experiences autistic inertia, but I definitely experience it. And I think for me, this is how I experience it. It feels to me like I want to say it almost feels like the worst case of depression ever. Like you just can't. You know all the things that you have to do. You know that there'll be consequences for not doing them. You know all of that, but you just physically cannot connect your brain and your body kind of to get it done together. And I find that is interoception, so you are right. It is definitely partially about interoception. It's partially about how when our brains and bodies get just so tired, really it's our brains that just get so tired of trying to work so hard to kind of cope with or, you know, just push through the experiences that are difficult for us, the ones that we have to mask through, the ones that take a little bit more of our brain's energy. And when you do that for a very long period of time, or you do it a lot very close together, that's when I feel like autistic inertia kicks in. Because for me, it's like my brain refuses to communicate better with my body. So I start losing words. I find it a struggle to find the right words in my head, and I find it a big struggle to get them out my mouth. And I definitely struggle with physical movement, getting comfortable. My sensory issues tend to get worse at that time. And I think it comes a lot from the exhaustion of that disconnect between your brain and your body, and how when your body's just so tired and your brain is just so tired, they don't want to talk to each other. They don't want to ask the other to do anything else, and just too tired. And at that point, physically getting through inertia can be difficult, because I feel like you start with the inertia, but then the longer you're in the inertia, the more the harder it is to get out of it, I want to say. So when I start to feel it coming on, when I start to feel that slow response, the not finding the words, dropping things all over the place, not being able to decide what I want to do, not feeling hungry, a lot of that interoception stuff stops. And when interoception isn't working, that's basically, I feel like my brain going, F you, body, I'm not doing anything else. I need to just be. And so even if you really, really want to be doing it, you often can't. And so that's why I wrote that article, because I was going through a really strong period of inertia, and I was trying to figure out how not to get stuck in it. And so I tried some things and they worked, and what I did was I put them together in an article so that other people who experience inertia can kind of share it. And so I the other part of your question, which is really how to verbalize that to other people, that's the way I verbalize it. I say, my brain is just so tired of overcompensating that it no longer wants to talk to my body, and they don't want to talk to each other and function. And then because they won't function together, I can't do anything. And then I think what comes after that are these sets of anxiety. Like, you don't know where to start. Maybe that's part of the inertia. The negative self-talk comes in, and you start telling yourself that you can't do anything ever. You're so terrible, this, that. And so there's more to the inertia than just the physicality of the inertia. And so that's sort of how I explain it. I'm sure other people have other experiences. We know autistics are not the same. We know that we all experience all of these things differently. So that's just my experience, and that's my attempt to verbalize what I've experienced. I will try very hard to remember to put that article in the description of this video so you guys can read through it if you're interested in autistic inertia. I sure hope I answered that question well enough. If I didn't, hit me back in email, info@beccalory.com, and I will try and answer it again in a better way. Maybe via email will help, but I hope that I've helped to answer it somewhat. And I have to shift because my back is hurting. Ugh. This shoulder, did you see it? Cat fluff. Cat fluff. All right, next question. All right. Okay. One thing this is from this person. One thing I feel I don't match is the inability. Okay, so background of this person: not yet diagnosed, waiting for an assessment, and really connects with most of things that are autistic, but is saying in this piece, I don't connect with that inability to feel and understand other people's emotions. Well, guess what? I don't either. I have a harder time connecting with my own emotions, and that's alexithymia. That's a little bit different than what you're talking about here, because I think what you're talking about here is empathy. And so that's the grandiose empathy myth, right? Autistics don't have empathy. We can't understand and feel other people's feelings. That's what that is. That's that empathy myth. And it is a myth. Many of us, I think, are actually empaths. So many of us are so sensitive to the emotions and energy of others that what we do as a coping mechanism is to turn it off, because we're just so sensitive to it. And it's just, if you are truly an empath, sometimes it's foggy and unclear as to whose emotions you're feeling. Is it really truly your emotion, or are you picking it up from somebody else and kind of putting it on yourself? And as somebody with alexithymia, that adds another layer to my problems, right? I can't even recognize my emotions, so how do I tell if they're my emotions or somebody else's? And so there's things in my life that I've had to cut down on doing because of that. But I guess my answer to you is, it's a myth. It's a big old fat giant myth, and you shouldn't have to feel connected to it, because some of us are empaths. Some of us are such strong feelers that we don't want to feel at all because it hurts. And so that's the answer to that question, which was nice and easy. It was a good easy one. I feel like it's going to be a short video this month, but I'm sorry, you guys, it's a short month. Well, not this year. This year we get the 29th. Oh, so happy birthday to anybody who has a February 29th birthday. I just feel like sharing that. Yes. Next question. Okay, next question. I have a chronic pain condition, and the advice I've been given is to pace activities to avoid crash and burn. However, with autistic inertia, I find it hard to get started. But once I do, I just want to finish and hate starting and stopping and find it so hard to get going again, which isn't pacing at all. Any advice on marrying up the two? Well, this is the ultimate double-edged sword, right? Because they're right? Whenever we have any kind of chronic conditions, whether it's a mental health condition, a physical chronic pain condition, or some kind of disability, or many of those combined, right? It's sort of, how do we then acknowledge all of those parts of ourselves and get through pacing? And I think what's really interesting is that the person's question is, what's really being asked is, you know, if I start doing something, I get into hyper focus. And that's what she's talking about, right? When we get involved in doing something and we finally get off our butts and out of the inertia to get started and do it, now we're in and we're focused and we're hyper focused, and we can't turn our focus away until the task is completed, and most of the time until it's completed as perfectly as possible, which can really be difficult when you're also managing a chronic pain condition or a mental health condition or a disability, right? And it can be hard to turn off that piece of your autistic brain and say, I need to transition, which is what we really struggle with, right? Is that we need to stop doing what we're doing, which we're so focused on, and transition away and transition to something else. And that takes so much work and so much effort and is so uncomfortable for us on the spectrum that we just want to finish. And I know that feeling, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I love the way we get things done. I love that once we get started, we don't want to put it down till we're finished. We're the problem solvers, we're the doers, we're not the talkers. That's really what it comes down to. And what it means to balance that is to, and this is the trick. So here's where you want to be listening closely. The trick is, what you want to be balancing isn't so much everything that you're doing, which it is, but what you're doing. So you want to balance the good, fun, positive, recharging activities with the ones that drain you. So if it's recharging and exciting to you to get hyper focused on a jigsaw puzzle and do that for 4 hours, and then that's all you can do that day, that's okay, unless there's something else that you have to do, in which case you have to kind of balance, right? Because that one's not necessarily stealing spoons from you, but it is taking time. So it's like, how do I balance all of those components? Well, you want to make sure that you're doing enough things throughout the day that kind of keeps you balanced. So, you know, the things that are really hard steal your spoons, and hopefully the things that are really good kind of give you some spoons back. So hopefully by the end of the day, you've kind of just negated each other and you're in the middle. And that's what I strive to do every day. And for me, it means I kind of decided, I had this conversation once, very long time ago, and I'm glad to be using this information again, with my therapist. And what she said is that you need to really make sure that each day feels fulfilling. That every day is a fulfilling day as much as you can control it. And that means that all the different parts of you need to be touched on throughout the day. So she always used to say, you know, do something fun, do something intellectual, do something physical, and do something relaxing. Right? So if you do all 4 of those things in one day, you should feel balanced, because 2 of them give you spoons and 2 of them take away spoons. And that concept was something that I hadn't really understood ever. Or how to use it, or how to use that focus time, or how to use that that recharging energy that can come with the focus on something you really enjoy. And so what I say to you is, yes, you have to balance. Yes, you have to pace yourself. But what pace means can be different for everybody. So maybe you need to do less things that are hard and more things that are fun. Maybe you're not doing enough of that. Or maybe you're doing too much fun, or too much relaxing, or too much of one of the other things. And you're not balancing out the 4 categories. You're not doing enough, right, to charge yourself up. And that's where like self-care falls in those categories and stuff like that. So what I have to say is that balance comes from really going inside, trying to understand how you're feeling, trying to learn your body and brain signals for all of your warnings about exhaustion, and making sure that you're sort of, I think, planning your days. Planning your days is another way to help with that balance. To like, I have a rule with myself that I don't do more than, I think it's like, I don't do more than 3, or I try not to do more than 3 appointments, right? So or like phone call meetings, anything in person, right? Because more than that in the course of a day upsets the balance, and I'll start to feel it. And I don't want to do that. So I try not to do that. And if I have to do that on one day, I'm really aware the next day that I should do a lot less. And so it's about figuring out for yourself, what are the things that charge me up? What are the things that deplete me? And balancing those things. Not so much balancing action and inaction, right? It's not just on or off. So that's my advice. God, I hope that was a good advice. I don't really know. I feel terrible, you guys, that it's such a short video this month, but that's what you guys gave me for questions, and that's what I've got for you. If you want more, if you'd like to hear different questions answered, if you have a question, please feel free to go ahead and comment on this video with questions. You can go ahead and email me directly at info@beccalory.com with any of your questions if you'd like more information or resources on the things that I talk about. Feel free to go ahead and email me for them, or you can, get in touch with me via social media. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and the whole deal. And of course, you can always go to my website, which is beccalory.com, and you can use my contact page. And I guess that's it. That's all the ways that you can get in touch with me. I hope you've enjoyed this installment of Asking Spectrum Women, albeit very short. I'm Becca Lory Hector, and I'll be back in March with the next installment of Asking Spectrum Women.